Sounds drive.
The most fun projects that you can do with a group, whether it's adults or children, and everybody can join in, is making explosion books. So here's one to show you. And what's neat about these is they literally explode. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to prepare your papers and cut and glue and have pop-up fun. When we begin the explosion book, we're going to need 3 pieces of fairly plain paper. It could be white, it could be colored. Black looks really great, but you want to have 3 6-inch squares of plain paper. And then you get to choose your paper that's going to be cut up for the colored elements. And you could choose something that is very different. These are some leftover gel prints that I had. And so you can see they're different in color and design on the paper. So that's one option. Or you could choose ones that are slightly similar. So similar color scheme, a little bit different textures and movement. And because I've got a few larger pieces, I could pick out different areas that I want to use in the smaller pieces. So for this book, I've chosen 3 different papers, and 2 are similar and 1 is quite different. So that's just what I've chosen. And these are 5.5-inch squares. These are 6-inch squares. And we'll start with folding the little pages, as it were, of the book. Now I couldn't find my bone folder, but I found 2 items that were equally as good. You could use the side of a credit card or something with an even edge, but not too sharp. You don't want to cut into this paper. You just want to add a little bit of pressure to the fold. So you're going to take one of your 6-inch squares and fold it right to the edge. I usually just use a very light fold with my fingertips and then go back with the bone folder to make it a crisp edge. And then I'm going to do the same. So they're both folding towards each other. I'm not turning it or flipping. Now, so we have inside fold, inside fold. And then we're going to turn it over and do a diagonal fold. And you can see why it's important to be pretty precise with your making your squares. Then I've got these 2 folds here. And the best way of getting it back together is to bring these to meet like that. And there is your page completed. And so you're going to repeat that twice more. And then coaxing it, just maybe poking into the center there, bringing those up to a point, and there is your page. The next step is to sort of lay out your pieces in a line, and we're going to glue 1/4 of the page together. So you can see where I have sort of an innie. I call it an innie. It goes down into the center. The next one is going to be flipped so that it has an outie. So it's almost like a mountain range. And I'm going to put a generous amount of glue stick on here. That's not very nice. I need a new glue stick. And luckily I have them. Scrape that off. Then, as I said, there's the mountain peak. And I'm going to glue that overlapping 1/4, just like that. Now, the next one is an innie again, as it were, and I'm going to glue it like that. And be generous with your glue. And then slide that in. And there we are. Now, if we're going to get this to fold together, and you can see that it just kind of wants to fold into itself. So there we are. And it kind of opens, closes, opens, closes. Now, what's key about this is you can make these larger, so you can make an 8-inch square or something else. Just remember that the colored pieces need to be 1/2 inch smaller than whatever size you choose this to be. The other thing to remember is you could make more and more of these pages. And so you could have, there's my larger sample, but you could keep going on and on. So it doesn't have to be just 3. It could be 6, 8, whatever you want. So we're going to put that to one side, and we're going to look at the pieces that I found. So these have a little bit of commonality in color, but they're all quite distinct. I'm going to cut these into quarters again. And remember that you want a good sharp knife. These are my favorite knives. They're a number 11 blade, and I buy them by the hundreds because I use them over and over again. And you want a blade that's fairly sharp. So I replaced this blade just a little while ago. Now, we've got a 5.5 inch square, so half of that is going to be 2 3/4. And don't rush this. Be careful. Watch your fingers. Do all those good safety habits. And then I'm going to turn this one. And again, 2 3/4. Now I've got 12 squares. And I want to take 6 of those squares. Let's see, which ones will I choose? I think I'm going to choose 2 blue, 2 of the yellow and red, or rust, I guess, and green, and 2 of the other little ones. I'm going to put those to one side. Now I've got 6 left, and in groups of 3, I'm going to cut these in half diagonally to make triangles. Now, the next step is planning your placement onto the pages. For this one that I did with gel prints, you can see that I've moved from sort of a golden yellow into blues and bluey greens. They're got different textures, different patterns, but there's a little bit of a flow. In addition, I chose different end papers or different covers of the book. So you might like to plan a little bit. And so I'm going to start by planning the 4 center squares, which are here, 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 and here. And so I'm going to look at that and that. Oh, and that. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that one. And just again, and I use a little bit of scrap paper to put the glue on underneath because you want to go right out to the edges of that paper. And then I grab my book and I've got a little bit of a border of white. I'm going to put that in there. The next one is the golden one. And so I do the edges with glue first and then a bit in the center. And you can see there I've got the little white border all the way around. And that just helps it to stand out a bit. And then finally, the remaining blue one. There we are. Now I'm not going, there's 2 remaining pieces here that will go on the other sides that I'm not going to put those on quite yet. I'm going to finish this side first. And so I've got my triangle. So let's see what we could play with. I've got this one and this one. And by doing this, you can sort of think about the arrangement. And so I'm looking to sort of place them opposite like that. Then I'll put that. I'm looking to do opposites there. So let's see what happens there. That's what I want. And then a blue. And then another blue. And I'm missing, oh, there it is. Triangle. Then a green. And I think I'm going to change this one around here and there. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to spend some time and glue them all down. So here's the inside of our book. And I'm just going to make sure that all the corners are stuck down. Then I will close it back up. So you won't want to dry it when it's closed up like this because there's a bit of glue on the outside of those pieces, so they're apt to stick together. I'm going to just put the outer squares, the covers, on them. Yeah, and voila, there we have our explosion book. So as I mentioned, I'm going to let that dry as it is, but I did want to mention a couple of other things that I had forgotten about in the beginning. But what's fun with this is to do it as a group with adults or kids or both together. Give them each 3 pieces of the 5.5-inch paper, and then get them to mark them all up, whatever they want, pencils, crayons, paint, ink. There's so many fun things you can do with them. Once they're all done, then the surprise comes. You get them to hand one piece to the person on the right. So then you get a new one, and then one to the person on the left, and then you get a new one come in. So you've got 3 different designs, 3 different pieces of paper. So it's kind of a fun memory type thing. This is another one that I did as a project. So this was one large piece of paper that I marked up with water and let the paint move across the surface. I think I used acrylic ink, went in with some other marks, and then cut it up. And because they're cut up and rearranged, you can't really see a continuation of design. It's just kind of nicely cohesive, as it were. So think about doing that. It's a lot of fun. You can have so many fun things happening, and it's a great project to do as a group.
Sounds drive.